Hey everybody, I'm Andy.
And I'm Sean.
And this is the Commander's Brew.
This week, a look back at Daretti, Scrap Savant.
Welcome back everybody. It's episode 133 of the Commander's Brew. Sean, how you doing? What's going on?
Ooh, what is going on? I'm excited to get at this. We're recording a little later in the day than normal, so for our YouTube viewers, expect me to start bright and visible and expect my background to become an abyss of blackness as we go.
Yes, you'll be swimming in a pool of black ink pretty soon.
Yep, like a Squid's worst enemy.
Our Twitch viewers will recognize that effect also, as that generally happens to us on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
133. This is an episode inspired by a deck that I have. And speaking of decks that I have, I brought a couple of those decks to GP Toronto, which just happened.
We just had GP Toronto. It was great.
Yeah, we had a great time there. We played not as much Commander as I would have liked. I gotta say, that's my one regret.
You know what I'm learning? So this is a total of like 4 GPs now, 3 Torontos and a Vegas, I think, for me. And I think, so one of the GP Torontos we did was like 100% just drafts. Right. And GP Las Vegas was 100% Commander.
Yes.
And I think, like in everything, life is about balance. Right? You got to figure out that balance. It takes a lot longer to do things than I assume.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
I was like, we got into a sealed thing.
That was really fun. We got into a team trio sealed Rivals of Ixalan thing, and I had fun doing that one. That was good.
Yeah. It's a very cool idea for a format. The 3 of us, Butler was our third, split, I guess, some Rivals in Ixalan, I guess.
12 packs.
8 and 4, something like that. And then we just had to build 3 decks out of the whole pool, and we would face off against another team who did the same thing. Very interesting process. That was a scheduled event. So like by the time we get in there, we play like half a Commander game. It's like, well, we got to get to this event that we signed up for. And then the event takes like 3 hours. It's like, well, gotta get some food. And it's like, man, where did they go? I got to do more stuff.
We played 1 Commander game while we were waiting for that sealed tournament thing to happen. We played 1 little Commander game. And that's it. And that was kind of a bummer. We did see other people playing Commander. We saw some listeners there that we'd never met before, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I wish I could remember all their names. I remember some. I remember Phil and Bailey. I remember you two.
Yeah, I remember we met Regan.
Regan, right. Yeah. Oh, man.
Rich.
Rich, yep.
Rich from Boston.
That's right. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways.
Saw Cam again.
I didn't see Cam. I wasn't there, I guess, when that happened.
I think it was when you were off at the hockey games.
I had to go to 2 hockey games the Saturday.
That's how Canadian we are.
Yeah, 1 planned and 1 was like really dropped on me like basically the day before. And it was very good. It was very fun. Anyways, but GP Toronto was great. I did have a good time. I had less of a good time on Sunday because I was pretty sick. I had like a pretty bad cold. That I'm still just getting over, and both my drafts I just lost in the worst way you can lose, where I got either like mana screwed or I just played my deck out to the point where like I realized I just didn't have anything to win with.
Oh, those are frustrating. Yeah.
It's like although I will say this, I managed to cast Form of the Dinosaur in a deck that had no red in it at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe this will help me win. And it is the reason I lost. I did lose to it. So, but that was fun at least. That was at least a bit of a highlight. But I definitely would have had more fun if I'd played more Commander. And I definitely have to make that a priority going forward when we go to these GPs.
Yeah, it's so tricky because
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Everybody's out of sync because like you meet some people and they're like, oh, we're in the middle of a game. It's like, well, we're not going to wait for you to finish this game because that could be like an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll start something, but then we start something and they're like, hey, we're done. It's like, well, we're going to be another hour.
Yeah, and drafts take so long. That's one thing like you said, like things take longer than you think. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe the strategy is to like post when we're doing a draft and then be like, okay, then after that, just be like, okay, now we're just going to be here playing Commander for a while. And
yeah, warning.
Tough. When it's only the two of us, it's like, well, what are we going to do? Play heads up Commander? Which we did for like a tiny bit and then our thing started. So I don't know. Anyways, it's tough to do. Yeah. But I think my strategy going forward at those things is to try and get more Commander going and like make it a priority to get more Commander being played. Because as fun as it is to like have these on-demand drafts just happening, and stuff like that, and getting to play formats that you don't usually play as much of, especially in person. I think Commander is what I want to play more in person, especially when it comes to with people who listen to the show and everything. And does that mean getting into Commander pods? Because I'm not wild about getting into those Commander pods. I got to be honest.
I'm not wild about pods either. I gotta admit.
It's $10.
But what if we just do our own pod?
What do you win? Like, is this one of those things where like, and listeners out there who are listening, like, let us know. Like, you guys know more than we do about this. This is only Sean's fourth GP, only my third. Is it like in those Commander pods? Do people just kind of go in and go like, hey man, you guys just want to split this 4 ways? Like, is that what everyone does?
I think this one was, yeah. I think this one had some prize tickets and like the winner got a pack, so you had to just flip a coin for that pack or something like that.
Weird. Anyways.
Oh, you know who else? There's another content creator called his name is Milo. His channel is Milo the Gathering on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
He's another Toronto content, or close to it anyway. I don't know exactly where he is, but I see him around Toronto only, so I can only assume. He had a thing going, like he had a scheduled thing, so maybe we got to take a page out of that book and just schedules like we're doing a Commander thing at this time.
We definitely do. Yep. We definitely have to do that. Milo's got it right there. Let's make that a priority in the next one we end up going to.
Yeah.
Which I don't know when that will be. I have no idea. We're definitely going to the next Vegas when they have it. So that's this year.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Toronto's also in the summertime.
There's another Toronto one?
Yeah, like and I think it's all team, like there's like team standard, team modern, team legacy.
Well, that's fun.
Where everyone has to share, like you can't all have the same card. Like only one deck gets the card.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
That's cool. Anyways, yeah. You wanna handle the other business we got to talk about here real quick?
Oh man, speaking of biz, let's talk about economics. Let's talk about sponsorships. Let's talk about Ultimate Guard sleeves and boxes. Carrying my stuff around in my boulders and my archive. Going to the GP, very useful. Let's talk about the Wizards Tower, wizardtower.com. Get your Magic singles there. Use coupon code TOWER. No, I love brews.
I love brews.
And just to as a heads up, we just got this news. They are changing the deal a little bit.
They're altering the deal. Pray they don't alter it any further.
Is that Darth Vader? Is that Darth Vader?
You better believe
Boba Fett? Who is it?
It's Darth Vader. Yeah, talking to Lando.
Yeah. So unfortunately, no more free shipping to the U.S. So free shipping to Canada, domestic, but not the U.S. But I still would encourage you to just check it out.
I think they said it's. I think we got a message from our bud Casual Cleric, as he is known on Twitter and Twitch and all this, and he said it's $3 shipping.
Okay. I mean, I think it might vary based on what part of the state. I don't know how shipping to America is. Also, how much you're ordering, I think, affects it too. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
Nonetheless, if it's about $3, I encourage you to check it out. Check out that exchange rate. Do the quick math in your head. It still might be cheaper buying, USD to Canadian with that exchange rate.
He told us that is why he does it, because the exchange rate is so good. And again, like I've said it a couple times. When this issue comes up, sometimes the prices, even in Canadian, are cheaper on Wizards Tower's website than they are on other American sites, which definitely makes it worth it. Even if there is a low shipping fee. Anyways, but yeah, Wizards Tower, get out there, check it out.
Let's hear an ad from him now. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to walk you through Ixalan's top
beaches. We're on an island, so there's lots of beaches here. We're going to want to know the best ones. Starting at number 3, Dino Bones Beach. Watch out for the dinosaur skeletons everywhere. They can be really sharp, but this beach has got surf, it's got sand, it's got rocks, and it's got cool rib cages coming out of the sand, which is a pretty badass looking thing to have. Next up, we've got the beaches near Azcanta. It's a lost city, so the beaches are also lost, so there's not a lot of people around, but it does have the best French fries nearby. There's a French fry truck nearby. They always have the best fries, because they're always fresh. And the top beach is Pirate Bay Beach. There's a lot of pirates around, so you might get hit with a cannonball, but they got wicked swinging ropes to just dive off of rocks and a lot of cool activities. And it's right near the Wizard's Tower, wizardtower.com. If you order Magic singles, you can get it shipped anywhere in Canada for free if you order $15 or more. And if you use coupon code ILOVEBREWS, you get an extra 5% off. Did I mention the 3% kickback on my next order? That sounds... not my next order, your next order. That would be awful if I get a kickback on all your orders. I mean, that's what commission is. It doesn't work like that. You give your own self-commission. That's a pretty cool way to look at it. Anyway, don't forget your sunscreen, especially with fire around. Fire cannon blast. Lots of red cards around there.
Best beaches on Ixalan? I wouldn't know. I have to believe them.
There's a lot of them. It's a big island, isn't it?
Yeah, I would have to admit, it would be so rad to walk through a beach or a desert through a giant bone rib cage. Like just sticking up out of the sand. That's one of the most badass things I can imagine.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pure sci-fi. Pure Dune. Yeah, right? Feels like Dune to me.
Real Dune. The spice must flow.
The spice must flow. Dune is spice is Dune. Okay, anyways. That's a t-shirt that should be made. Let's get into the episode we're talking about today. Let's get into the deck we built. And the deck today, again, like I said, is inspired by a real deck I have, and probably a lot of people have, because it was based on a precon that came out back in 2014. And is now, I mean, it's risen in price now, so I don't know. I mean, our version here is cheaper. This is why I wanted to come back and take a look at it. And it's I guess we could make this part of a series, right? I think this actually might be a good thing to do, is to look back at these precon commanders and these precon decks and how you would build them now, right? Like how, starting from scratch, like we're not saying like buy the precon here. We're saying like, just put this deck together like a normal deck, basically. I mean, sometimes it might work out that the precon is still cheap, and so just buy it, and then like you'll have a bunch of the cards for it. But I think in this case, it's actually pretty expensive now because a bunch of the cards have gone up in price. But we're starting with our boy Daretti, Scrap Savant.
Yeah, Daretti was one of those first red commanders that I was aware of that kind of changed the game for red.
Yes, it gives red definitely like a different thing to do besides the classic burn spell, X spell, things like that.
Yeah, I can't even think of who the most prominent mono red commanders were before Daretti came around. Like Norin the Wary, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Perforos.
Yeah, and Perforos was only really just before this, right? Like this was, when was Theros? Probably like 2013.
Yeah.
Might even be the same year. Taking a quick look. The other Krenko Mob Boss is still the most prevalent red commander according to EDH Rec.
That makes sense.
But not by too much. Yeah. But yeah, Daretti is right up there. And another reason why I wanted to come back and look at this deck is because we haven't featured one of the Planeswalker commanders on the show since those precons as well, right? We haven't built around one of these monocolored Planeswalkers, which are very unique because they can be your commander. So for all, like, there's a ton of commander players. I mean, this is we're in 2018 here. This was 4 years ago. Not quite. It's more like 3 and a bit. But if you weren't playing Commander back then, you weren't playing Magic back then even, you weren't around for this. So let's take a look.
If you weren't playing Magic back then,
yeah, man,
you're dead.
You missed out. I love Daretti. It's one of my favorite commander decks that I have, and it's let's talk about him. He's 3 in a red for a planeswalker. He has 3 loyalty. Starts out with. His +2 is discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. So you don't have to discard 2. You can just. I love when they do the pluses ability. They always make it so that you can do it. Like you don't. Like if you don't have any cards, you can discard 0 and still plus him by 2, which is great.
Yes.
The -2 is sacrifice an artifact. If you do, return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. As you'll see, these two, obviously, these top 2 abilities here are like really what we're going for. This -2 is the real bread and butter. And then his ultimate, which if you get it right and you get a good board state going, you can get it. I've had it before. Is -10, so it does take a while. But you get an emblem with whenever an artifact is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, return that card to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. One thing I'll say about him and his ultimate is it's certainly not something you should aim for. And if you get to the position where you feel like, hey, I could maybe go for the ultimate, you're probably winning enough anyways. Like you're probably just going to win because you need a pretty sweet board state to set it up that you can ultimate Daretti. But hey, sometimes you find yourself, it is kind of early. People just can't get threats down. And all of a sudden you're at 11 loyalty or whatever it is. And you do it. But yeah, we're looking at the top 2 effects here as we are with most planeswalkers. 4 mana cost is great. Daretti doesn't cost that much. You can get him out early to start discarding, and if someone kills him, it's not that big a deal to get him out again. So, but generally, you don't want to cast him too early, as far as the strategy goes. I can get a little deeper. I like this because this is a deck I actually own. Like I can kind of talk about that strategy a little bit more, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, lots of play testing on this one.
Lots of play testing on this one.
Daretti's under $2, so no excuse.
Another reason why I wanted to talk about it is because this guy is a budget planeswalker, and he's a budget commander. Like this guy's perfect for our show. We have to talk about him.
Yep.
Part of that is because he got reprinted in the latest commander decks, right? He was in the Brew deck, I believe, or not the latest. I guess it was the ones before that.
I don't know.
Yeah, so as you can probably guess, this is an artifact reanimator style of deck. This is what we're going for, but it's unique in that because of his ability and because of the other abilities in the deck, it wants to trade artifacts. So you want to trade your low cost artifacts for your higher cost ones that are sitting in your graveyard that you discarded, right? So yeah, let's get into some of the categories. So let's talk about those artifacts we want to trade in. Like these are the ones we get out there early, and then we can, we want to trade them in for stuff. This first, let's skip this first one. We'll come back to this one at the end of this category, just because it's a bit of an interesting thing. Let's go to the next one here.
All right.
Yeah, you can read it, Sean.
Pyrite Spellbomb. Just costs 1. It's an artifact. You can pay a red, sacrifice it, do 2 damage to target creature or player. And if 2 damage is not convenient, like if it doesn't seem helpful, you can either that or pay 1 generic, sacrifice it, and draw a card.
Right. So this is just a low-costed little artifact, has a very small effect on the game, but sometimes is relevant. 2 damage can take out a utility creature. And obviously we know red doesn't draw cards the best. So anything that says draw a card, even if it is like a cantrip type of effect like this, is actually quite good. And especially since we can get our artifacts back from the graveyard pretty easily.
I do like that it is your cheap artifact. It's your like trading piece. You're going to trade that in for something good. Mm-hmm. But if you haven't built your engine and you don't have your good things yet, you can cash this in for a card and get closer to doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's the cousin of this guy. The other Spellbomb is also in this deck, and it's pretty.
Yeah, it makes people not be able to block.
Yeah, but you don't. You like tap it. It's a little bit different, but this one's probably better. Next, we have Curse of Opulence. This is 1 red for an enchantment, so this is not an early artifact. However, it's the new aura Curse. It goes on a player, and it says whenever enchanted player is attacked, create a colorless artifact token named Gold. It has sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool.
Named Gold.
Yeah, each opponent attacking this player does the same. So yeah, this is you can get this down quite early. People are generally pretty happy to ramp up, especially if it means that they get to attack someone and blame it on someone else. So hopefully you can get a couple of gold tokens with this and trade those guys in, because those are free basically.
Yep.
They also help with some ramp, obviously.
Huge. Another thing red has a little tricky with.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Thopter Engineer, 2 in a red. Human Artificer, this is a 1/3. Thopter Engineer enters the battlefield. You put a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. That little artifact is one of your tradables. You can trade that in cheap. But also, Thopter Engineer gives all your artifact creatures haste, which, we don't care so much about that Thopter, but when we start pulling those big, bad artifact dads out of the graveyard, we are looking to attack right away.
Yeah, this is I have this in 2 commander decks, and this is like just a kind of a decent uncommon from Magic Origins. Oddly, I keep thinking it's from Kaladesh because it was like the precursor to Kaladesh.
Yes, it
happening.
looks like it's the foreshadow of Kaladesh.
Exactly.
Such a cool move on Wizards' part.
But this is a great artifact deck card. Like it gives your big guys haste, like you said, and also provides a little one if you need it as well. So this one's good. The one I wanted to wait on is Copper Gnomes. Copper Gnomes is an old card. It's from Urza's Saga. It's a 2 mana 1/1 artifact creature gnome, and it says you pay 4 generic and sacrifice Copper Gnomes. You may put an artifact card from your hand onto the battlefield.
Wow.
So this one does double duty, and obviously you would really like it to have this. You really want it to use it for this 4 mana ability, but if you can't, if instead you're putting some stuff in the graveyard and you get this guy a little bit later or whenever you get him, you can either trade him in with Daretti's ability or one of the other trade effects we have, and then bring him out later for when you want to drop something big from your hand. So like anytime you throw an artifact in your graveyard, if it's early, whether it's like good or not, it's a good thing because you will always be able to go back and get that artifact later. And Copper Gnomes does double duty, like I was saying. So this guy is. Yeah, he's great. He's great to have out early. He's great to have out at any point in the game. He cheats something into play, cheat that mana cost. You know how valuable that is. That's great.
That's a very useful effect.
Very, very useful effect.
Yeah.
Especially since we can tutor this guy like back to the graveyard back to the battlefield and then pay 4 at instant speed to sacrifice it and put something out. Like that's the other thing. This is an instant speed ability. It's really good.
It almost gives us another axis to work with, because so far we got to go between graveyard and battlefield.
Right.
But this lets us go hand and battlefield.
Correct. That is true.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So the main way that this deck puts cards into the graveyard, it doesn't have the same milling options that like blue and black has. So this one has to use a lot of discard abilities, and red is actually quite good at that, as you probably know. But one of the ones that isn't red actually, and this one came in the precon, and I've kept it in the deck because you know why? I think I've never drawn this card. I think that's why I kept it in the deck. So I've never actually seen if it's great, but I think it is. I think it's good. Sean, you can read this one here.
Yeah, this is Mask of Memory, 2 generic for an equipment. When an equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw 2 cards. If you do, discard a card, and it equips for 1. So that's like draw 2, discard 1. It's like discard. It's like draw. Like it's everything Daretti wants, right? Like you're gonna discard one of those. I mean, maybe neither of those are big artifacts, so maybe you don't really care too much about that. But I mean, if one of them is, just draw the other one, no problem. If both of them are, no big, I'll put one in the graveyard anyway. And if neither of them are, well, at least you get your best one out of the 2. This is an excellent card, and any deck that has trouble drawing on the regular, red, white, that's basically it.
Yeah.
White, I think you got to run this card.
Yeah, I think this. I mean, it's a shame that this card doesn't add any power toughness or anything to the creature, but it also does just equip for 1, which is pretty good.
So cheap.
So yeah, like I said, I don't remember ever getting this card, but I think if you do, I think I think it's just going to go on some flying creature you have or something, and it's going to provide some card advantage while also filling up your graveyard. I think it's great.
I keep thinking it's not a mask, that it's brass knuckles based on the picture, but it is a mask.
That, for sure. It's a brass knuckles mask. Yeah, it's like, where do I put my eyes? I could put them in any of these little holes.
Yeah. It's all crooked on your head. It's like, I don't think you're wearing that right. I don't know, man. I tried all the holes.
I don't know, man.
None of these seem to work.
This is the one that feels right to me. I don't know.
I'm not wearing this to look good. I'm wearing this to draw cards, okay?
I don't remember how to wear this mask, okay? It's the mask. Next, okay, we have Smugglers Chopper. So we've made some, so like this isn't the exact version I have. We've obviously had to make some budget cuts and stuff like that. And Sean actually really helped out before we got going here today. And this is one that he suggested, and it's a great card for this deck. Smugglers Chopper, we're all probably pretty aware of this card. It's 2 generic for the 3/3 artifact vehicle. It has flying, and it says whenever Smugglers Chopper attacks or blocks, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So it loots, and it's the crew 1. So you're very, very happy to for this to only be crew 1, because this deck can make Thopters and things like that. So that'll be good. It does kind of like vehicles aren't probably the best in this deck, just because you're like you don't have that. At least my commander's a creature. You know what I mean? I can at least rely on that. That's a bit of a downside, but in general, you're gonna be fine with your crewing your Smuggler's Copter and looting and stuff. Okay. What's the next one? This is one that was a bit of a late addition for me. I just saw this recently.
Oh yeah, Shattered Perception sorcery. It's 2 and a red. Discard all the cards in your hand, then draw that many cards, and it has flashback for 5 and a red. So again, to repeat it, we like to discard with Daretti, get good stuff in the graveyard. We're not going to discard before we're ready to, so we'll discard all that stuff. And the fact that it's flashback is very pricey, but when when you cast this from your hand goes down by 1, so that you draw less cards. Mm-hmm. But when you cast it from the graveyard, your hand don't change size, you draw that many cards, and Daretti's ability to swap from graveyard to battlefield doesn't cost anything. So paying 6 and getting something good in there, then activating Daretti always works. Mm-hmm. It's not like Daretti. It's not like the 6 hampers you from doing that.
Yeah, like this is the type of effect that I think normally isn't so great, just because, like you said, it's actually card disadvantage the first time you do it, and it does cost a lot. And like, what if you don't have the cards in your hand? If you're stuck with just this and like one other card, that sucks. But I think there's enough times where you're going to have stuff you draw this, you have some stuff in your hand that you want in the graveyard anyways. So you just do that, then Daretti it right onto the battlefield, and you only ended up paying basically 3 to get that card onto the battlefield.
Good deal.
Yeah, it's a good deal. And we want effects like this. Wheel effects, as they're known as. I mean, this isn't a draw 7 wheel effect, but those are ideal. Those are a lot better, but those cost more. So
those cost a money.
Yeah. So,
and the problem with the cheap one is the one with suspend, but we want to control when we do it. We don't like the suspend one's not really an option for this deck.
I didn't even think about that one, actually. Okay. So, we've got our quick artifacts. We got our discarding going on. Now you want the stuff that trades. So obviously Daretti does this. This is why he's such a great commander for this deck. But there are other options. We got to have some redundancy within the deck in case Daretti is, his cost gets prohibitive or something like that. So let's take a look at Scrap Trawler. Scrap Trawler is 3. This is another Sean ad, which is a nice one. 3 generic for a 3/2 artifact creature construct. Whenever Scrap Trawler or another artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser converted mana cost. This guy's very solid. There's a lot of cards that whenever like it dies, you get to return a target artifact to your hand. So that's like one version of it. Scrap Trawler is another version because it lets you. It does it for other things, not just for itself. But then it comes with the restriction that it must be cheaper in CMC, right? So
yes.
A lot of times, though, the things you want to get back to your hand are the little guys, whereas the big guys are the ones you want to put directly back onto the battlefield. So for that reason, for that usage, Scrap Trawler is very solid, and I think you're going to be happy to see this guy pop up at any point.
I think he's going to be great, especially for all those little artifacts that are cheap that draw you cards.
Exactly.
You've already presumably traded some into the graveyard, so you want to get them back. And it's like, the traders are, got to get them traders back.
Sean, you're already getting very dark on the video. I think.
Oh, am I? I got to
turn
see
your lights up or something.
Oh, I'm a ghost. Okay, I can adjust the camera settings. Excuse me while I get technical. I
kind of like Scrap Trawler's little face. There you go. That's much brighter.
Yeah. Scrap Trawler's little face.
I can see like his little face.
Oh
there.
yeah, he got, and then it reminds me of Daretti's face a little bit.
Yeah, it does kind of. Is that his eyes? I guess those are his eyes. Right
or his hat.
I zoomed in way too much. Now the video looks weird. Okay, cool. Anyways, yeah, Scrap Trawler's great. Why don't you read this next one? Oh, this one's great. This one's like an all-star kind of.
Goblin Welder. I like to call him Goblin Weldy.
Goblin Weldy.
Yeah, single red for a Goblin Artificer. Tap. Choose an artifact choose target artifact a player controls. So that player doesn't, you don't target the player, and target artifact card in that player's graveyard. If both targets are still legal as this ability resolves, then you switch them. Mm-hmm. Graveyard to battlefield and vice versa. So you can do this to I always forget that Goblin Welder can affect opponents' boards. If they have like a wicked mana rock, you can trade them for a worse one, or like a simple thing, or just a brutal artifact.
Yeah, so
but yeah, we're gonna do it for ourselves most of the time.
Blightsteel Colossus. That's what it's called, right?
Blightsteel Colossus is the big commander out of budget one that we never brew with. But
right.
yes,
we never brew with it. But if someone else has it, you can Goblin, and if they have another artifact in their graveyard, you can Goblin Weld it away, and that's one way to get rid of it.
Gobble it up,
and that goes for any artifact. But we're looking to use it on our own stuff. We're looking to trade our little guys for our big guys, and this is the ability that Daretti's middle ability is based on. This is the card that it's based on, I think.
Yes.
It's a great card. It's a 1 mana card. It simply taps to do it. Goblin Welder is great. Whenever you get this guy out, that means you have 2 Daretti activations on a turn, and that can get really ugly really fast for your opponents. No question.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And then just, if you got Scrap Trawler going around, you're trading your little traders back. So you're getting those back. And here we go.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing that does the exact what we just said for Goblin Welder is Trash for Treasure. It's a sorcery. It costs 2 in a red, and it says, as an additional cost to cast Trash for Treasure, sack an artifact, and then return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this one can't affect other people, obviously, but this is what we want to do. This is our ability that we're using on ourselves here. So it's just nice to have some redundancy. And I found that I questioned whether or not the one-time ability was worth it, considering we do have Daretti and Goblin Welder, and a lot of times you do just want it. Like if you don't have any other ways to do it and you just need to make it happen, you wish you had Trash for Treasure. So it is actually quite worth it.
Yep.
Okay, now let's talk about the big guys we want to trade for.
These are the trade targets. This is the economy, the prize stocks.
That's right. Yeah, these are the ones you're cashing in. This is what your shares, they hit $100 a share. Your
bitcoins. Exactly. Your bitcoins have gotten big.
you maximize your investment 10, 15 times what you put into it, and now you get something like Metalwork Colossus. 11 mana for a 10/10. Sweet. Actually, this one's really good in this deck because of its extra abilities. But because it says Metalwork Colossus also costs X generic, less to cast, where X is the total converted mana cost of all non-creature artifacts you control. You'll have lots of those. And then you can actually sacrifice 2 artifacts, return Metalwork Colossus from your graveyard to your hand. That is really, really good. Having a sack outlet that sits in your graveyard and can do it at instant speed, that's very, very good for this deck. That's what you want. Because sometimes you might have something that someone's trying to exile. I mean, you know how sack outlets work. And if this guy's sitting in your graveyard, you get to do it at instant speed, which is great.
It's great. And like, so this guy, again, is like the Copper Domes. He's a double duty because a 10/10 is a significant body that, must be dealt with eventually. But also, in a way, he's an amazing trader since he probably costs 0. Yeah. So, like, if you... And not to mention, I mean, I know I'm obsessed with Scrap Trawler. I do love that card. If you send an 11 CMC to the graveyard, you can get back anything you want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And when this guy comes back to your hand, he probably comes down for very little mana, if any at all, depending on what your board's like. But he's... He's solid. Okay, what's this next one?
Solid dude made of artifacts.
Speaking of Colossi,
Oh yeah, Colossus of Akros, 8 generic for a golem, 10/10 defender, indestructible. Also monstrosity 10 for 10. So if you ever pay 10, and that's instant speed, so if you could just hold up a bunch of mana and you got your Daretti activation the turn before, maybe some artifacts ready to go. But anyway, if you manage to do this, you put 10 +1/+1 counters on it, so it becomes a 20/20. And as long as it is monstrous, it has trample and can attack as though it didn't have a defender. And it's, of course, still indestructible.
Yeah.
This is like, get out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, this is the budget version of like Blightsteel Colossus. You have to pay,
Yes.
you have to pay
Yes.
18 mana for it, and it doesn't even kill in one hit. But like it's still must be dealt with, and is still quite hard to deal with it. I've seen it in games where you're just like, man, I can't do anything against this. We're hoping for my Swords to Plowshares. I'm hoping for something like that, right? And even then, the guy is going to gain 20 life if you do it. It's not
You will
great.
gain 20 life.
Well, I will because I'm playing in the card. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah.
I see. Like if you're the player with the swords.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this card is, it's a slow, and it might be a one-hit kill depending on how the game's going.
Sure, yeah, that's true. It's true. One thing I'll say is that the 10 mana isn't so, because there's so many mana rocks, and because that just plays right into the strategy of this, even more so than a normal deck. Like sacrificing mana rocks late in the game to get things back is a real strategy to win for this deck. So there's a lot of mana rocks in here, and so Colossus of Akros sometimes. You don't even need to tap mana to get his 10. I mean, you probably do, but sometimes
and if you
just have enough mana rocks out there that it just works.
And if you plan it right, and if you pick your moment, then you can probably pick a time where it's like he's just a defender the whole time. You're like, okay, here's my moment. I'm gonna monstrosity him right now. Attack for 20. Go ahead.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Cool. Next we have Scuttling Doom Engine. I remember when this card cost a lot of money, and guess what? We're lucky right now because it only cost 35 cents. But when
Gumball.
it first came out, it was, I don't know, it was weirdly expensive. And I remember
With his, it looks like he's got fancy Nike shoes on.
It does kind of. He came out right after these decks came out, and I remember like, this is a perfect card for this deck, but I had to wait till it dropped in price, and luckily it did. Scuttling Doom Engine is 6 mana for a 6/6 artifact creature construct. Scuttling Doom Engine can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Good luck, token decks. But also, when Scuttling Doom Engine dies, it deals 6 damage to target opponent. Now that's not a game-ending ability on its own. Six damage, it's nice. It's a nice size of a creature. It's still, still has to be reckoned with. But it's the loop that you can get. It's the sacrificing and bringing things back and getting it back to your hand and playing it. That's what it is. That absolutely this can actually end games, and I believe I have ended games with Scuttling Doom Engine before. When it dies, if you can sacrifice it, that's 6 damage. It doesn't take too much of that before someone's dead, especially if they've already taken a couple hits from your other stuff.
I do enjoy Scuttling Doom Engine because it gets through a lot of like cheap death touchy blockers, or a lot of like tokeny creatures. Mm-hmm. He's hard to chump, and this artifact is going to get it 6 damage in one way or another.
Exactly. And a lot of times, you don't even bother attacking. It doesn't matter. You'll just have enough. You just have it going that you can get this guy back from your graveyard so easy that you just, you'll just keep doing that a couple times every turn. You're doing 12 or 18 damage without even attacking.
Yeah. Cool.
Next, do this one. This was basically your suggestion.
Sure. Combustible Gear Hulk. Combustible Gear Hulk is, I'm going to do this off of memory. 4 red.
Oh, this is a lot for a memory.
I got it. It's a 4 red for a 6/6 first strike. Mm-hmm. It's an artifact creature.
What kind is it?
Construct.
Yes.
And when you cast it,
ooh.
It's about, I can tell you how it works in real life. I may make it the rules wrong, but here's what you do. You reveal 3. No, you don't reveal.
It's not a cast trigger.
It's not cast. Okay, when it enters the battlefield, that's even better for us because that's what Daretti's all about.
Better,
when it enters the battlefield, your opponent has to either let you draw 3 cards or send him to the graveyard but the cost to send them to the graveyard is they have to pay life for the total CMC of those cards.
I mean, essentially, you're right.
Okay.
But it is damage. It's not. They don't pay.
It's
life.
damage.
Yeah.
Okay. It's even better in a lot of ways.
Yeah. When there's a battlefield, target opponent may have you draw 3 cards. If the player doesn't put the top 3 cards of your library in your graveyard, then Combustible Gearhulk deals damage to that player equal to the total converted mana cost of those cards. I guess it's relevant that Combustible Gearhulk is the one doing the damage. Like, they don't pay the life. So, like,
yeah, that's a good point.
Somehow he had some ability like Infect or something.
I guess because the rules dictate that you're not allowed to pay more life than you have ever. So this card could never kill anyone if it was worded that way.
Also, if you're playing this in a red-black deck and you have that one that instant speed spell that makes something get Infect, I wonder how that works. That's a real rules question. It's like, can I...
Do you know what?
I can't cast it in response to them deciding yes, though, right?
No, because once you can't do things in the middle of cards happening. Like, you can cast it before it resolves and basically force it, like, make it a real perilous choice.
Yes, yeah. Do you risk it? It's the only Infect card I have in my whole deck.
Yeah. Costs me 1 mana. I mean, it might kill you. It's kind of guarantees the draw 3.
Yeah, basically, right? So yeah, this is a great form of either card advantage or a bunch of damage. And I said that this is basically as Sean suggested, because while Sean did suggest it, I had, of course, when I saw this card, I was like, okay, well, this has to go in Daretti like right away. But I never ended up putting it in my deck. I kind of forgot about it.
How do you feel? I wanted to make another suggestion.
Sure.
How do you feel about Mage Ring Responder?
Oh, you know what? I do like that card, but I like it more in the tapping and untapping decks. I actually run this in my Darevi deck, not Daretti.
Yes.
Which, if astute, like really, really like high def YouTube viewers can see that if you look over my left shoulder, I have 2 framed magic cards, 2 of the oversized framed magic cards, and they are Daretti and Darevi. They're both of them.
Wow.
So, anyways, I think I did think about Mage Ring Responder in this deck.
Yeah, because you can get around its untap trigger by just putting them back on the graveyard.
Yeah, you
or
could.
Back on the battlefield.
Yeah, well, I mean, or just pay the 7. I guess it's probably not that bad.
Yeah.
I just feel like there might be times where you're stuck with, I don't know. It's
probably
you know what?
right.
It's I don't think it's bad. I just think, like, I don't know. Yeah, sure, you can put him in there if you want. I think this card is decent.
7 mana, 7/7, doesn't untap. It costs you 7 to untap him, and then whenever Mage Ring Responder attacks, 7 damage to target
creature
defending player controls.
Yep. I had the I originally, because it was the precon, I originally had that dragon, the lieutenant dragon, that basically does the same thing, but it untaps.
Yes.
I had that in this deck for a long time, but I only recently took it out.
Okay.
Just because I wanted to make room for some more fun artifacts. Although I think that card is good. I think that card's fun. Okay, so that's what you want to do in the deck. Those are the things. That's sort of blueprints. But I wanted to quickly highlight, because it's a mono red deck, some of the problems mono red has is with dealing with things, dealing with enchantments, for example, dealing with other planeswalkers. If you don't have direct damage, which is like, we do have some, but it might be hard. But you can enchantments are real pain to deal with in this deck. And we all know about Chaos Warp. We all know that that's the sort of default mono red way to do it. The 2 in a red, the owner shuffles the permanent into their library, then reveals the top card, and they get that if it's a permanent as well. But I wanted to also point out 2 cards that work really well in this deck. One of them is Scour from Existence, which is 7 mana for an instant that just says exile target permanent. It's a common from Battle for Zendikar. This card is good in this deck because, like I said, with all the mana rocks floating around, 7 colorless mana isn't hard to come by. So Scour sometimes is quite good. Spine of Ish Saw is another one that's like a big 7 mana thing that deals with it. There's also that deals with permanents rather. But then there's this interesting and weird interaction, which is Liquid Metal Coating. So Liquid Metal Coating is a 2 mana artifact that you tap, and target permanent becomes an artifact in addition to its other types until end of turn. Well, Liquid Metal Coating actually does a surprising amount of work in this deck. This one stuck around from the precon for me because every time I get it, I'm like, hey, there's an actual like decent little like use for this card. I can't like sacrificing an artifact. It's like, well, I don't have any artifacts to sacrifice other than liquid metal coating, but I can turn this like land into an artifact and sack it, or this other thing. So actually sometimes you end up doing that, or you end up turning the permanent you want to kill into an artifact because red very easily destroys our other artifacts. And we've got a bunch of ways to do that in this deck because, I don't know, red does it. You might as well do it. So liquid metal coating actually ends up being a way that you can deal with enchantments.
Nice.
Yep.
That's good utility, right? Keep that in mind, red players. Yeah.
Look to the colorless forms of, I don't know, removal or changing what a permanent is. I probably wouldn't put liquid metal coating in a deck that didn't care about artifacts, but in one where you also don't mind changing things into artifacts, it's actually decent. Yeah. I mean, that being said, you could still probably cut it if you had some other like really great out of budget card that you just have or whatever. But it's neat. I mean, that's arguably a surprise or discovery. Actually, I probably should have put that down there. But let's talk about the 3 stars of the deck. Let's talk about the best ones here. The best ones, the ones that are really, really killing it. Sean, why don't you start us off here?
Sure. They put him in the precon for a reason. 1 red, legendary human artificer. It's Feldon of the Third Path. He's a 2/3, and his ability says 2 red, tap, put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of target creature card in your graveyard, except it's an artifact in addition to other types, and it gains haste, and you sacrifice it at the next end step. So it doesn't exile the card from your graveyard, which is important to note. You just get to just spam creatures from your graveyard.
This guy is great. Feldon is an awesome card, let alone commander. I've actually never played with him as a commander or anything like that, but I'm sure he's really good.
I think we did an episode with him one time.
Did we do an episode with him as a commander?
I'm pretty sure we did at some point.
I don't think so.
Well, I do, but I'm not sure.
Anyways,
so, yeah.
I remember us doing a commander interview with him.
Oh, maybe that was what I'm thinking of.
I rember doing that. But anyways, correct us if we're wrong. Yeah, he's very sad. He's trying to make his wife. Out of what he's using, like I remember I remember the interview now. He was all drunk trying to turn a golem into his wife.
Sun's out, rum's out.
Sun's out, rum's out, man.
That was his quote.
Okay, Feldon's awesome because he takes any creature you have in your graveyard and turns it into an artifact and then you sacrifice it. So sacrificing it with Daretti instead of letting it just sacrifice by itself is a thing you can do. And there are a bunch of creatures in here that aren't artifacts that are still just good for this deck. And then so Feldon really helps out with those guys too. So Feldon's awesome. Whenever you can get these 2 guys that were in the same precon together, the two
commanders,
like they work really well together. Obviously.
Huge.
This one almost made the top #1 card because every time I've cast this card with this deck, it's been an absolute, like, I basically not win the game on the spot, but like you are now way out ahead of people. You are now doing very, very well. And it's Scrap Mastery. It's 3 and 2 red. Again, this one came in the precons. The only time this card's been printed, I think. Yep. Each player exiles all artifact cards from his or her graveyard, then sacrifices all artifacts he or she controls, then puts all cards he or she exiled this way onto the battlefield. So this is just a mass trade, but it's for everyone. So what you do is, it's like, what's it called? There's a card that does this with creatures. It's black. Living Death? Living Death? Is that what it is?
I forget.
I don't know if it's Living Death. Is it? Yes, it is Living Death. Yep. Same thing. It's 3 and 2 black for Living Death and 3 and 2 red for Scrap Mastery. So just like Living Death, this card is a monster in the decks that are prepared for it to happen, right? So not only do you can you set it up so that you've sacrificed all your good stuff before you do this, and now you just have a couple of, like, whatever, you don't care about them or things you couldn't sacrifice or whatever, and now you're going to get all the good stuff from your graveyard back onto the battlefield directly. All your other opponents are going to lose all the artifacts they have out and are going to have to trade. Usually it's like 1 or 2 dumb things that you don't care about back to the battlefield. Obviously, if you're facing like some kind of crazy reanimator deck, that might change. But even then, usually the number of artifacts they have are not that impressive, and then the ones they get out are like couple mana rocks. You might get a couple signets out on the battlefield. Like, who cares?
Who cares at that point?
Benefit like crazy from this card, and you can really set up turns that, again, like basically you can then just win the game after. It's great. Sometimes even just the ETB triggers alone will do it if you have the right stuff going on.
Yeah, this is never good when your opponents cast it on you.
Yeah, listen to Sean's voice when he says that.
Yeah, I have been on the receiving end of this card, and it is not fun.
This card's great. I love it so much. Okay, you read the number 1 star.
Number 1 star, Trading Post.
Yeah, man.
4 generic artifact, 4 abilities. Each one costs 1 and a tap. You can discard a card, gain 4 life. That's good. We like discarding big artifacts that we will reanimate later. We can pay 1 life, create a 0/1 white goat creature token. Unfortunately, this goat is not an artifact, but it's still something if we need. We don't care. It's got other more useful abilities.
That is definitely the least used mode of Trading Post in this deck, for sure.
For sure. Or we can pay 1 and a tap, sacrifice a creature, return target artifact from your graveyard to your hand. This is worse than Daretti, but if we really need something to happen, like if we'd rather cast something for some reason or hold it in our hand for a little bit later, doesn't hurt to have it there. Or sacrifice an artifact to draw a card. Very useful.
All very useful. It makes sense that in the deck where we have a planeswalker as the commander, we should have a planeswalker as the number 1 star as well. Trading Post, of course, being referred to as the artifact planeswalker, because that's kind of what it is. You get to do one of these 4 things every turn of the table, and they're all quite powerful, quite good if you've built the deck around it. The ones I use the most in this with this guy are sacrifice a creature and return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. It's just so strong for getting creatures out of the way of things, for putting a big guy in the graveyard so you want to recast it. Scuttling Doom Engine's great for this. You can do the thing that you traded, that you can get that back, put the Scuttling Doom Engine in, then next turn trade them again. And also, of course, the sacrifice an artifact, draw a card. And it's so good having creatures, artifact creatures, because you can choose which one you want more, which one's better, and they can do either of them with either ability. So it's great. Trading Post is also like kind of under the radar a little bit. Like it's not super. You're just like, oh, what do you get to do? You get to like draw a card, return an artifact, like big deal. Who cares?
I don't care.
Gain 4 life, whatever, man. Well, you want to make a goat? Go ahead. And you have to tap it. It's like, oh, why? You can't even do it a bunch of times. Like, whatever. This card sucks. This card's amazing. It's amazing, and that's one of the main reasons, because people hardly ever try to get rid of it, and then if they do, this deck is so good at getting things back that it doesn't even matter. So a lot of times people are just like, well, he's just going to get it back, so, why am I wasting removal on it? There's not a lot of exile target artifact abilities going on out there,
Well, and the beauty is, if they try to exile, you sacrifice the artifact.
Exactly. You can sacrifice it to itself, which is great.
Yeah.
Trading Post is awesome.
Yep.
Real quick, we do have 2. They're surprises because of the way the deck has played out for me over the years now, I guess. One is Bosch Iron Golem, who's the 8 mana 6/7 legendary artifact creature Golem. He has trample, and you can pay 3 and a red to sack an artifact, and Bosch deals damage equal to the sacrificed artifact's converted mana cost to target creature or player. When this guy hits the table, looking at this, I was just like, oh, just some big monster. Like, okay, pretty good, I guess. But he's just so much more than that. He becomes your win condition. Like, you don't need to attack anymore. He just throws the big monsters at your opponents. It's great. And the ability to sacrifice an artifact, even though it costs 4, which is kind of a lot, is able to be done repeatedly at instant speed, which is awesome.
And let's just remember that we're probably casting Metalwork Colossus, which is an 11 CMC for almost free.
Yeah.
And then you spend another 4 and do another 11 to somebody. Decent.
What's this? And there's one more little one here.
Oh, Codex Shredder. This is from Return to Ravnica. This is a 1 mana artifact. Tap. Target player puts a top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Or 5 tap. Sacrifice Codex Shredder. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Any target card, not just not just an artifact. This is especially useful because sometimes those ones, like, for example, like, I don't know, did you just trade all, did you have to discard, like, your, what is it called, even trade all your artifacts?
Scrap Mastery?
Scrap Mastery? Like, did you have to discard Scrap Mastery because of a Daretti trigger or something like that? Cool, Codex Shredder can actually get that card back. It's one of the few ways to get non-artifacts back from the graveyard.
I believe it. I believe it is the only way.
Okay.
And when I looked at this card to think about putting it in, I was like, okay, it mills for 1 a turn. I was like, that's not that good. But that 5 to just return any card can be very powerful. It's like
very useful.
Very, very useful. Very under the radar as well. And because obviously since you sacrifice it, it also dodges, like, I get any exile thing that might happen, which they don't. It dodges it, but also you can get it back very easily because of the way this deck works.
Yeah.
It's part of the engine. Sometimes this engine gets going and it's just very hard to stop things if you don't have a mass exile of graveyards available.
Can I ask you another question about a card to get your opinion on it as the expert of the deck?
Sure.
Indomitable Creativity.
Indomitable Creativity. Okay. X and 3 red for a sorcery that says destroy X target artifacts and or creatures. For each permanent destroyed this way, its controller reveals cards from the top of his or her library until an artifact or creature card is revealed and exiles that card. Those players put the exiled cards onto the battlefield, then shuffle their libraries. So you choose, like, what's the idea here? You choose.
So you get rid of X artifacts or creatures.
It's like a trade.
They polymorph.
Oh, they polymorph.
So you just keep. So let's say you get rid of like 3 or 4 dumb trader artifacts. Then you flip over the top of your deck until you get 3 or 4 actual. Does it have 2 artifacts? Artifacts or creatures, and then they just go onto the battlefield. They're not cast, but they do enter the battlefield.
They enter. That's very interesting. Yeah, I did not think of this card when I saw it at first. I guess because I don't know. I think it probably fits right in here.
It would only be super useful if you end up with more traders and less targets.
Yeah.
I've been using the term traders to mean your little 1 and 2 mana things.
Yeah.
So, like, you don't want to cast this on your giant artifacts, probably, but, maybe a Scuttling Doom Engine, but you could. I think it's a nice way to get things started too, because you do your first 3 traders, get some things, maybe traders, maybe big things onto the battlefield, but now there's more things in the battlefield graveyard economy. It puts more cards into that economy.
There's also the ability to just sort of add that extra 1 or 2 mana and actually destroy something that's causing you problems.
That's true. It does turn into a creature or artifact, though. So, like,
you could be making a big risk. But like, if they have something big that you just want to basically like polymorph into something hopefully smaller, you can try that out, I guess.
Yeah.
This could also be a political card. You could also move. I like it, actually. This is neat.
I've never resolved it, but I really love these kinds of cards.
Yeah, and definitely if there's a deck to try this card in, it's this one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
No question. If it made more tokens, it would be even better.
Yeah.
Then you can actually just get a bunch of. This actually might be good in that Breya Hellkite Tyrant deck I have.
Oh, what are you gonna cut? Anyway.
I know. What are you gonna cut? A deck's humming these days. I already want to put a Pitiless Plunderer in, but I don't know how to get it in there.
I don't know.
Okay. Let's focus back on this guy. Before we get to the budget report, we'll talk about Wizard's Tower again real quick.
Yeah, old pals at the WT. Oops. You know what I did? I wanted to look at I like to look at their splash page while we talk about them to see what's up. But I just typed in WT in my search browser, and that doesn't work.
I see on Wizard's Tower's website right now, we already have some Masters 25 drafts available. Like, you can sort of sign up for them.
It's happening.
Register for them. It's happening. Jace the Mind Sculptor back in Modern.
Whew.
Reprint back. It's happening. Exciting.
Which is making Stoneforge go up a lot.
Really? Isn't that banned still?
No, Stoneforge was never banned. It was Jace that got banned, which which made Stoneforge way less
Oh,
useful.
I thought Stoneforge was also banned, but I guess not. Yeah.
Am I wrong on that? I could be wrong.
I thought it was. I thought Stoneforge Mystic was
I'll
banned.
look it up.
Okay.
You talk about cards.
Also, you can check out wizardtower.com, of course. Apply that coupon code I love brews. But also go check out mtgcanada.com, where Sean and I are writing Commander themed articles. I just wrapped up my full review of of every 3-color card in Magic. I will sheepishly admit I did, because of the way I did the search. I did forget some of the cards that have a commander identity of 3 cards, like those ones from Fate Reforged. I did sadly miss out on those just because of the way I did the search, but maybe I'll do an update and add those in there. But go check it out. It was really fun and very good for me for the show. So whenever we do those shows, those episodes now where we feature those 3 colors, like I know the cards pretty well now, because I had to like look at every single one and talk about them and
I had to look at every single card.
I mean, I had to because I decided I had to, not because anyone else made me or anything.
I know.
But yeah, it was good. So yeah, that's done now. So now I'm getting back in the next 2 weeks into writing sort of more regular style articles. So keep an eye peeled for that.
Sweet.
Okay, back to it. It is time for the. Oh no! Before we do it, tell us what you were going to say.
What was I going to say? Oh, Stoneforge Mystic is banned in Modern.
I thought so. Okay.
Yep. So then why did it go more expensive? No idea. I guess because everyone thinks like, well, if they unban this, they'll unban this.
Maybe. Anyways, time for the budget report.
This is where we look at all the cards and we see which ones are super cheap, and we throw them in the graveyard and trade them in for very expensive cards.
Oh, I wish that's how it worked.
Yeah.
I want to trade all my cheap cards for expensive cards, please.
Yeah. Look at this. If I flip in these like puzzle knots into this weird portal, they come out as Feldon of the Third Path. $3. Most expensive card of the deck.
That's right. This budget report it's $49.66, I think. So we just made it under. I gotta say, I wanted to say this before we got going with this part of it, is that like we talked about this last time too. It is getting very difficult to stay under this $50 mark. I'm telling you.
You know what? After some discussion online about it and after thinking about it, I am more on the side of keeping it at 50 and just being a little bit more creative with our brews.
I am too. I still think we should keep it at 50. But this one was the first one where I was like, wow, it's really tough. Like I had to cut a lot of stuff from my actual, like I started with like what I have in my deck and then like changed around a lot of things. I was like, man, this is a pretty different deck now. But you know what? Here's the thing about it. I think it's still basically as effective, to be completely honest. Like, sure, it doesn't have some of the bigger budget cards, which we'll talk about in a second, but like, I don't know. I think we added some pretty good stuff to this deck. So I think maybe you lose like 5% power. That's about it.
Yeah, Kaladesh is new, so all those cards are pretty cheap, and it adds a lot of utility to this. Yeah.
Yep, definitely. All right, well, let's talk about, Feldon of the Third Path was the most expensive card, $3.
$3 Goblin Welder, also just under $3. It's because these are fairly unique abilities.
Yeah, exactly. And the next one is Ashnod's Altar, which just came around $250, depending on which version you get, obviously. But you can also but apparently you can find one that's $1.50, which like I guess the MTG Goldfish doesn't care about that, because that's the one we use to price things out. But anyways, Ashnod's Altar is available for $1.50. You can get it for cheaper, but you don't get this cool art.
I love the new art.
Yeah, the new art's neat. It's kind of terrifying and creepy. But they're all, you know what? They're all like great cards in the deck, and even so, I would definitely keep all of them. I don't think you cut any of these cards.
No,
and it's just tough. Like what I mean by it's tough is it's not impossible to make a $50 deck. You can still do it very easily, basically. But like I can't like. Putting a $5 card in, putting a $6 card in, that's becoming harder. That's what's becoming harder, because now we're getting more cards that are like, oh, this card's $2. Like this card's, you know what I mean? Like, oh wow, like what was it? I was so surprised there was a card that's $1. I'm gonna pull it up and look at it.
So I guess if you were to like graph out all of the prices of all of the cards in our decks, it used to be a really skinny line near the 0 and then a couple of spikes at the end. It's like, oh, there's a few cards that are $1 and $3 and maybe a 5. But now it's as if that little average line just is higher now. Like the average cheap card is 75 cents, $1, and like those add up real quick.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was. I'm trying to find it, but I can't. Anyways, whatever. Oh, my cat fell asleep and she's slowly falling off the box she's lying on.
I've never really thought about before.
What's
is that? Just the way we do it. We do a $50 budget.
Yeah.
That's about all the non-lands, right?
Yeah.
Give or take. So for every card that's over $1, there must be at least one card that's under $1.
Yeah.
And now that most cards are getting close to $1, they don't give us that like wiggle room to put those expensive ones in.
I mean, it's nice when Iron Mirror costs you 15 cents. You gain a lot of ground with that. But then, your Goblin Welder takes up $3. I found out what it is. It's Colossus of Akros. That card's $1.
What?
Right? Why?
You know what? I think it's because it's like, this is what happened with Primal Surge, was it? Where it's just like, not everyone can afford a Blightsteel Colossus. And as that gets harder and harder to buy, people are like, well, I guess I'll take the next best thing. And it's like, it's Colossus of Akros, I guess. And although it's getting old enough and people are scooping them up and no one's trading them in at $1. So like, they're getting harder and harder to find.
You know what's another one that is climbing up there? I mean, I don't want to get too off topic here, but it's Swiftfoot Boots is 85 cents.
Yeah, man.
I remember when this card cost 20 cents, like when it was 15, 20 cents, because it was printed in every commander deck. I mean, this is what happens. Every commander deck wants it, basically. So, I mean, we don't care about it. Our commander is not a creature. Okay, so let's talk about some cards that are out of budget. First one I want to say is Magus of the Wheel. I have this in my deck because it came in a precon. I can't believe it's the year after this one. It came in the precon, and I remember being like, well, should I sell this because it's worth money? But it's actually quite good in this deck. It's the 2 and a red for a 3/3, and you pay 1 and a red and tap them. You sack Magus of the Wheel, and each player discards his or her hand and draws 7 cards. So this is that draw 7 ability we were talking about. The fact that this comes on a creature is even better because Daretti can reanimate regular creatures too. Like Feldon can bring this guy back, and you can have some fun with it that way. But otherwise, it's just a.
You mean the deck
effect.
can? Daretti himself.
Sorry, yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, Daretti the deck can. He himself cannot. What's the other one here?
Next one, Wormcoil Engine. This is just like one of the most solid, efficient creatures. This was actually in the precon originally.
Yep.
So if you bought it, you got this card, which is now minimum. The cheapest version here is the Commander 2014 one from that very deck at $16.
Yeah.
But you're probably going to pay about 20 no matter where you go.
Yeah, Wormcoil Engine is the first creature if you tutor for it in this deck, if you were to do that. There's one card that does that. He's basically the one you grab because sacrificing him makes the 2 worms, obviously. It's just very, very good. It can get you back in a game that you're losing because it has lifelink and all this stuff. So it's obviously an awesome, awesome card.
Such value.
And then one that, again, like this is one that I didn't pay full price for. I remember getting this in an M14 draft, being like, I remember it was a draft at Butler's place, just being like, no one's picking this card, but like, this might be good in the commander deck. Darksteel Forge, 9 mana for the artifact that says artifacts you control have indestructible. And now it's worth $7-8, depending on the version. So, yeah, I mean, we have this in here because it just makes our when we get our threats out, it's just very hard to deal with them. So if you have a Darksteel Forge, you're throwing them in your artifact deck.
Big time.
I had something I wanted to say there, and I totally forgot. One downside of having a Planeswalker as your commander, I will say this, is that you cannot rely on commander damage, which sometimes you're like, I really wish I could do that right now because someone gained 200 life, and you're just like, well, how am I going to beat him?
I'm not going to beat him. I mean, if you get your little loop going, you can probably do pretty good.
You might do okay. But yeah, anyways. Cool. That's the deck. There it is.
Hoo-wee. Fun.
Fun deck. It was nice to come back and revisit it and look at it. Again, not really as a straight upgrade to the precons, because I think the precon costs like almost $80 now, maybe around that.
It's because of
a bunch of stuff in it. So yeah, but go out, get your Darettis though, because they're so cheap, and then just build your own fun artifact deck. Like Sean was saying, Kaladesh came out and offered a lot for this deck.
Tons.
Yeah, tons. And then the Brea deck came out, and actually tons of the stuff in the Brea deck works really well too. So a lot of those cards are priced quite low. Yeah, so you can go out and do it, and it's a very fun deck and very effective. It wins a lot.
It does. Oh boy, fun. I don't have it makes me want to brew this deck.
Yeah, right on, of course.
I had the precon, but I just pillaged it for other decks.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
What did you put your Wormcoil engine in?
I think it's an Animar.
Oh, yeah, of course. Free Wormcoil engine? Sure.
Yeah.
Man, I haven't seen you play that Animar deck in a very long time.
You know why? I wanted to let it gets a lot of heat. I wanted to let it cool off a bit.
It does get a lot of heat. It's very, very good. It wins.
It's a hot deck.
Just like Animar does. It wins very quickly. And the protection from white and black on Animar is so stupid.
It's so stupid.
Okay, well, that's it. That's it for this week.
Oh, boy.
Thanks for listening. It was nice meeting everybody at GP Toronto. Hit us up on all of our social medias. We like to play Commander when it's not GPs. So if anyone's in our neighborhood and they want to play Commander, if you got a night going and you feel like inviting two strangers whose podcast you listen to, hey man, we'll play Commander with anyone. So
have we done crazier things?
I'm sure I've done crazier things, crazier things. Just don't murder us when we show up at your house. Okay, done. Yeah, there you go. We'll just make that pact now.
All right. We're free the night. Why not?
Why not, right? All right, cool. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Brews News coming up. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Brews News. I'm Andy.
And I'm Sean.
And this week, we've got a very special movie review segment. It's Bruce and Bruce watching DVDs.
Welcome to another episode of Bruce and Bruce Watching DVDs. This week we watched one of AFI's top 100, the classic by Quentin Tarantino, Pulp Fiction. Multiple tales woven together and playing with time and temporal stuff, featuring a wonderful comeback by Bruce Willis and John Travolta. Uma Thurman, the list goes on and on. I would just want to say this movie changed cinema as we knew it and dared to tell stories in different ways, breaking the structure. Fantastic film.
I like that his name is Bruce as well.
Bruce Willis is named Bruce. Yes, another Bruce. That's not why we picked the movies though, Bruce.
The Willis I would like to be friends with in real life.
Ooh, wouldn't you want to be friends with Bruce Willis? I bet he's so cool.
He has a boxing glove. He is a fighter like me. I feel like I would crush him. Either way.
Okay, Bruce, I'll just take this time to remind you again that these are characters. The real Bruce Willis is not that in real life. He isn't, he probably has boxed for training and things, but he wouldn't fight you.
Yes, because he would lose.
Although I'm not going to dispute that, we don't go around fighting with people, right, Bruce? We don't do that.
Of course not, except for me. Now, this movie, I watched this movie and I think it is very violent. It have a lot of killing and blood. And I like this, but it don't have enough softer part. You need to have a movie to balance it out.
Well, you did fall asleep for part of it, but they were on a date at one point. There was dancing and milkshakes, and I think you might have liked that part. That was definitely a softer part.
I don't remember this part. I do remember a part where it was in my old school, and you are at your school and you're not wearing pants. And then the teacher called on you for a question, and you cannot remember because you did not do all of his homework, this Bruce.
I believe what you're describing, Bruce, is a dream you were having while we were watching the movie. That didn't happen in Quentin Tarantino's classic Pulp Fiction.
Well, it sounds like if it was part of the movie I have seen.
Well, I can't comment on that. I normally don't dream. I have to take serotonin every night in order to fall asleep because I have sleep apnea, and it's difficult for me.
Oh. Well, I fall asleep anywhere.
Yes, I know.
Sometimes it is a problem. I cannot operate the machinery on the farm.
Yes, that is a problem.
One time I did. And let me just say, my neighbor's fence, it got ruined pretty good.
Ruined like the people in the basement that Bruce Willis used the machete on.
Ah, yes, the machete. Wait, no. Didn't he use something else? Sword. Katana sword.
Katana sword. I'm not an expert in swords, but I'm an expert in film, and I give this classic movie 5 stars. Bruce, this is where you... Buddy, Bruce? You know what? I'm not going to wake him up because when he wakes up, it's very startling and I get very frightened.
Oh, my. Oh, I am sorry.
You were sleeping, Bruce?
Yes, my least favorite part of the show so far was when the giant bull made of stars, he trampled me as I ran away from him. And then his poo come out all over me.
Bruce, that was a dream. That was a dream. You didn't really get trampled.
Yes.
I mean, that's the kind of fun that I have to deal with on a weekly basis as we review movies. But nonetheless, even though that didn't happen, I still give this classic from Tarantino 5 stars.
And I say this one to get 10 stars. 10 bull stars made of stars out of 10.
You know what? I'm just happy you're actually using stars this time instead of weird animal parts as a way to measure things.
Things are getting better up here.
Good to know. I think it's all this movie education. Anyways, see you next week on Bruce and Bruce Watching DVDs.
Now, how do the DVDs work?
Oh, good question. So on the disc, there's micro grooves that are either represent ones or zeros, and the computer reads all this information. Okay. He's sleeping again.
I don't care.
You don't care about... Wait, what? Thank you, Bruce and Bruce. An interesting take on some films.
Yeah, definitely some films. They should get Netflix. They can just stream those movies now. They don't have to keep putting in different DVDs and stuff.
I heard it was a real trial just to get DVDs going. One of the Bruces is afraid of technology.
Which one? We'll never know. Okay, well, that's it for us. We're tapped out. We'll pass the turn over to you. Good night.
Good night.
If you want to contact us, I'm at Sean Tabaris.
And I'm at Andy Holbone.
Send us an email at commandersbrew@gmail.com.
You can find out when we go live on Twitch if you follow us at twitch.tv.
And if you care to support us on Patreon, check us out at patreon.com.
And you can find our deck list on tappedout.net.
And if we forgot anything, commandersbrew.com.